Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, the podcast for women who are done waiting for the one and ready to become the parent on their own damn terms. We're talking fertility, pregnancy, emotional chaos, and the village that it takes to raise a kid. Sometimes you're crying in the bathtub. Sometimes you're crying because your toddler bit you. And sometimes you cry because you chose all of this. Welcome to Motherhood, solo style. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, and part 2 of Lara's story. I am your host, Lara. When we left off, Max had just entered into the world, a moment of light after years of uncertainty, loss, and perseverance. Now, we step into what came next, the quiet, tender, and often overwhelming chapter of bringing a newborn home during a time when nothing outside of her walls felt normal. In this half, Lara begins to navigate life as a new mom in the middle of a pandemic, learning how to care for Max while she's still finding her footing after everything that she had survived to get here. We'll explore the rawness of the newborn phase, the emotional shifts that come with those first sleepless nights, and the unexpected joys that began to rise alongside the challenges. This is also a chapter where Lara starts building her village slowly, intentionally, and sometimes imperfectly, finding connection in places she's never imagined during a world that's still trying to reopen. Part 2 is about growth, it's about healing, and it's about the beautiful, messy reality of becoming a mother after a long and complicated road. Let's step back into Lara's story, now with Max in her arms and a new chapter just beginning.
We started our little life together, and my night doula came the first night. Yet another one of my dear friends who played a heroic role in all of this. One of my best friends is a pediatrician, and she had told me at some point in their pregnancy, when you're looking at these night doulas, it's imperative that you get someone who will come for the first 2 weeks straight. Because most night doulas don't do that. They do like 3 or 4 nights a week at most. And she said, like, even if you have to get 2 different people, like in case you have a C-section, you cannot do this alone for the first 2 weeks if you have a C-section. So you must get somebody lined up. I found a night doula who was willing to do, 14 straight nights. We ended up doing 13. She's like, you're doing great, and let me have a night off. But she came at 10 o'clock that night. And I always have been prone to migraines. I had the most extreme migraine, that night and the second night as well. And she had never seen anything like it. Like, I have had so many migraines in my life that, I was really grateful she was there. But I didn't think about going back to the hospital because she was there. She told me later that she came very close to just taking me to the ER. She was so concerned. And I certainly would have had to call an ambulance if she hadn't, if I had actually been alone. I would not have been able to stay alone with him that night, with the intensity of the migraine both nights, both of the first 2 nights. Super grateful to her. She was amazing and took really good care of me. And yeah, like day 2, you have to go to the doctor or something crazy like that. One of my best guy friends from college, who's like a second brother, came and got me and, took me with the windows all rolled down, so because COVID, all this crazy stuff, And so it's like in any other year of my life, there would have been all these people at my house and all this help, but instead, nothing, right? The closest I came was this friend all masked up, with all the windows down, driving me to the hospital. And he gave me my shots the next spring when I finally got to get vaccinated. Like, he got me in early and he did the actual shots for me, which was amazing. Just like none of the, people flying in to meet the baby or welcome it, so he had the biggest first birthday party ever. There was just no help, no support.
I was going to say it had to feel a certain way because like there's so much excitement, like you said, about everybody wanting to meet the baby. I say they should also like want to spend time with the mom too, but everybody wants to meet the baby. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances, you weren't able to experience that with your son. And so you really were like on an island by yourself, other than your doula and this friend.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a couple of, I actually made 2 really good friends that year. 2 friends who hiked with me like every single weekend, basically, one or the other or both of them. They both were people I knew before, but like they became very close friends. There were folks that were up I hiked 6 days a week basically that year, and was in great shape the whole pregnancy, and had an easy pregnancy, like an easy delivery. And the doctor kept saying it's because of all the hiking. You should keep that up until the end. So did an 11-mile hike 4 days before he arrived. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, um, uh, and I still got a lot of friends. There was nothing to do but work. And well, I mean, I had all this stuff to
Right.
take care of with my mom. I actually had some really long days. The worst was a 15-hour day between work and just taking care of her affairs. But otherwise, I just walked. I just walked the huge hills of San Francisco. I went on hikes, all of that. The hiking areas were closed for about 6 weeks, which was the hardest part of the pregnancy. But yeah, I still saw people. It was just like a subset. And when he arrived, yeah, it was very different than what you picture. But when I did get my first COVID vaccine, which was April of 2021, um, it was earlier than I would have otherwise. But this friend was running equity clinics where they were going to low-income housing projects and giving the shots there, and they just weren't getting taken. A lot of they were. He said he called me and said we're going to throw out half of these vaccines at the end of the day because people aren't using them. We want to give them to anybody who wants them. If you want your shot, come over and get it right now. So I did. But another one, this other good friend who's a pediatrician, like the doctors were all vaccinated first. And so like when I got my vaccine, she came and took my son out in the stroller because I got a fever. And so she was like, I'm at least vaccinated. Like, if I need to change a diaper, it's safe. Yeah. I mean, the two times I ever had any like actual help where she and her daughter, who's now 11, would have been 6 at the time, took him for a 1 hour walk when I had been 3 days without showering. Like, my son was a major cluster feeder. I think you have a cluster feeder too. And so for the
Triple
first month, it
feeder.
was like from waking up until 1 p.m. Basically, I'd be like locked in a chair with him cluster feeding, and it was insane. And then it was like when we hit the 4 month sleep regression, I mean, there were just 3 days where like, and I just really wanted a shower. She took him in, she didn't touch him, right? I put him in the stroller. She and her daughter walked him around. They never touched him. And because they weren't vaccinated, she wasn't vaccinated yet by that time. And then brought him back, and I got my shower.
That's
And
just all we
then
want is just a
yeah,
shower
and then
off.
like 2 months later, when I had this fever, she was like, she felt more comfortable at the time, so she's like, "We'll take him for a couple hours," and her whole family came and they took him to the park, and she gave him a bottle and she changed his diaper. The rest of the family didn't touch him, but she was fully vaccinated at that point. But that's for me, that was it. That was the only help I got, like the whole infant phase.
Did
So
you, when you said that you had a bad migraine, I'm also prone to migraines too. Did you end up having post preeclampsia because of that?
no, and I actually didn't have so I actually did have my induction a few days early because I had quite high blood pressure, but it turned out not to be preeclampsia. So, but it was like, this was because we had this excessive heat, again, like it's wildfire season. Our hottest time in San Francisco is September and October. It's gotten a lot hotter with climate change. And so the week before I was slated to have my induction, it was in the 80s, and San Francisco is not built for that. San Francisco is built for it to be in the 60s at the warmest. And
Yeah.
so there's like no moving air in the apartment, like it's excruciating inside. Um, and so I was just lying all day with a fan on me, and I noticed that I had pitting edema, where your legs are swollen, and when you press on it, the indent stays put.
Uh-huh.
And so I called, and I also had started having contractions. So I guess I originally called them to say that I was having contractions and I didn't know if they were Braxton Hicks or not. This was the Wednesday before I was supposed to be induced on Sunday. I called them like probably 10 or 11 in the morning saying I was having contractions, and then they checked in a couple times and they were like, "Yeah, I think that you're probably going to come in tonight. You're probably going into labor and you're probably going to come in tonight, but call us back at 4 or something." Um, and then it was like, while I was lying there, on the sofa with the fan on me, I noticed the pitting edema. So when I called them back, I said, "Hey, I haven't had a contraction in the last 3 hours, so cancel that. But I do think I have pitting edema." And then it was like this onslaught of questions. And do you have a blood pressure cuff? And I do. So can you please take your blood pressure? And it was like 155 over something. And they were like, "You need to come in right now." I live 5 minutes away, so it was easy. I went in, and it was still really high. They wanted to take the blood pressure themselves. And so then they were very worried that I had preeclampsia. It took until about 8 o'clock at night, so maybe 4 hours, to get no on preeclampsia. And then, the COVID tests were very slow. The rapid tests were like 4 hours. So they wouldn't let me leave till the rapid test came back in 4 hours. And when I was negative for COVID. At that point, at 8:30 at night, I didn't have preeclampsia, but had this very high blood pressure. The doctor said, you'll be 39 weeks at midnight. So you can be induced at midnight or you can be induced at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Which would you choose? And I said, I'll choose 8 a.m. I'll go home and
Yeah.
sleep first.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have any issues afterwards with blood pressure, but definitely those
That's
last couple of days before.
Yeah, that's really good because it can quickly turn, right? Especially because you had it
Yeah.
creeping up before. And
Yeah.
then, after everything you go through with an induction, but also just labor in general, it's a good thing
Yeah.
that you didn't turn to
Yeah.
preeclampsia. Yeah.
Yeah. Very,
That,
very fortunate. Yeah.
your son's name is Max, I think I heard you say.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me about Max.
I mean, he's spectacular. He's sort of everything you could ever dream of and more. He's a very curious child. He's very loving. Last week, I have been having a lot of migraines this year. And last week, when I was, carrying him, we were walking home from school, he wanted to be picked up. And I said, Mommy has a migraine. So I carried him, but, Mommy has a migraine. I need you to be a good listener tonight because, he's 4, like, not a great listener in general. And he gave me a kiss on my forehead, and I said, "Oh, can you give mommy some more kisses? That'll help take the migraine away." And he kissed delicately, like all over my face. And honestly, like it did make me feel much better for a few minutes because there's just like this euphoria of like I can't get over what a sweetheart you are, you know.
Right.
So he's just I always sort of pictured having a girl because I didn't know how to picture anything but being a girl, you know. And when I found out he was a boy, I said, well, as long as he's a mama's boy, that's fine with me. And he is a mama's boy, a willful one. He is also a young child, so he's got his own mind about everything. But he's a real sweetheart, and he's funny, and he's super smart. I mean, this morning walking to school, he said, Mommy, 2 times 4 is bigger than 2 times 3 because 2 times 4 is 8 and 2 times 3 is 6. And I was like, wow, these are multiplication facts we have talked about one time yesterday.
Yeah. Also,
And
he's 4.
so, yeah, yesterday was 4. That's right. Anyway, just, he's like he loves learning. He loves learning like all these plants in the background here. I know how to identify a lot of the native plants in California. He does too. He loves learning that kind of stuff. He's very observant. He's sort of up for everything. Everything I could ever say, like, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go do that? He always wants to do everything. He's very open to the world. He's a real people person. I think he was young enough to not be that affected by the isolation of COVID.
Yeah.
But I also think that and he went to a nanny share at 4.5 months and he went to a daycare at 10 months. So he's been with people since he was young.
Yeah.
But
It
I also
helps with
think
the
that
exposure.
he never saw anybody without a mask but me until he was like 1. And I feel like some kids, that sort of deprivation of human contact that happened because of COVID, some of them have a hard time being away from their parents as a result. And then in
Mhm.
his case, he just devours people. He just more people the better. He's just making up for lost time. He's just like a total people person. He just started elementary school and I feel like he's like the mayor of the campus. We walk in and everybody's like, hey Max, hey Max, hey Max. And he knows all their names. And so he's fantastic. I mean, he doesn't listen to me half the time. And, he's a total pain in the rear too at times, but that's to be expected. And in no ways that are like atypical. He's not like, he's a really easygoing, even-keeled kid. I feel very lucky in like a lot of ways. Even though he's never been a great sleeper, I feel more tired than any other mom I
I
know.
feel you.
A friend of mine like actually said to me recently, I hate to say it, but I think Max is the least good sleeper of any kid I've ever heard of. It definitely feels unfair. Like I know a lot of single moms by choice, and the vast majority of them do have like family nearby or that they live with. They have practical support that I just don't have. I have so much love and so much emotional support from all over the place, and so many friends who are there if we need them. But it's different than like having actual I am single-handedly raising this child.
Yeah.
And it sort of does feel like it's not fair that given that context, I get the worst sleeper ever. When like a friend of his whose mom, has a husband and a grandma, her mom comes a lot and is young and can help, and her kid has since birth like slept 13 hours a night. It's just like, how is that fair? And that's like the hardest part of parenting him is the sleep thing. And so I'll take it because he's not afraid of things and he's not unwilling to do things and it's just we have so much fun together. We do so many fun like weekend outings and stuff.
He's your
So
buddy.
he's my little buddy and he's awesome.
Yes. Oh my gosh. As a mom to a boy too, I totally get all of this. Now, granted, mine's only 13 months old, but I can't wait to see what this relationship will turn into as he continues to get older. When I first found out I was having a boy, I was like, oh my God, like I don't know if I'm going to be a great boy mom. But now that we're into it and I have two nephews that are older, I'm like, yeah, I got this. It's so much fun. And he uses me as a climbing gym most times
Oh,
right now
yeah.
because he's at that age. But it's just so
Unfortunately,
sweet.
mine is still at that age. Like, that doesn't end very soon.
But I feel you with the sleep, and I've said this in like several of my episodes, is I wish I had a better sleeper, but maybe like down the road there's a reason for all of that, that he didn't sleep so well.
I will say my little guy's brain is very active, and that clearly is part of it. Like when he's awake, when he wakes up early or he wakes up in the middle of the night, like he's got something to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I do think that a lot of it is a busy brain, and that during the daytime, is all this learning and all this hunger and figuring stuff out. He's like a little tinkerer. He meets any mechanical thing and he takes it apart, figures out how it works.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think like I was very worried at first because he never slept. The first 2 years, he never slept the minimum of any range for a given age that you were supposed to sleep. And I was worried about how to affect his brain development. That's what they say those ranges are about. And my good friend who's a pediatrician would say, because we would like go hiking together a lot, even in the early days, and she saw him developing, and she was just like, "You got nothing to worry about. This kid is well developed." So yeah, I just think some of the time they have these busy little brains, and that leads to other good
Weston's a
things.
busy bee. He's like nonstop all the time, and they even say that at daycare when I drop him off. He's just such a busy little guy, and I'm like, yeah, I know. He scared me the whole second, and third trimester because I could never feel him move, and I was
Oh,
at the
wow.
doctor so much. But then here he comes out, and he's just like a busy bee, like
That's great.
nonstop.
That's great.
Yes. So you wrote a book, right?
I have written a lot of a book. I didn't ever write the happy ending because
Well, now's the
uh,
time.
yeah, I've been working on it. I wrote as I went. It was a blog originally. I never posted it because the wise pediatrician friend said to me the first time I did an IUI, I was like, I'm going to start posting the blog tonight. And she said, no, 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 you wait until you're pregnant. You don't need like 400 other impatient people waiting for that pregnancy test with you.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I get
you
that.
wait until you're pregnant. And then of course it was 6 more years before I was pregnant. I was really glad that she said that. And so I kept writing it all along. And I'm so grateful for that because I can't remember a lot of the details. When I had COVID this January, I had 2 days home just in bed. And I well, I'll step back to say it's all these sort of blog posts, these like essays. And I had started in a writing group I was in before I had Max. I had started like editing it into chapters, right? Read like a book. And I had sort of really polished the first 30 pages into that format. I kept not getting past that because that was a lot of work. So these 2 days home with COVID, I was like getting well beyond that. I was reading things from 2014 and 2015 when I did all these IUI rounds, and I was like riveted to find out what happened next. Because I don't remember, like it's a decade ago. And I think grief does a lot to your memory. And so I feel
Mhm.
like that's why I don't really remember the moment of finding out I was finally pregnant. I remember all these other moments. But for me, I'm so glad I did chronicle it because I wouldn't remember all the specifics anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I have written it, and so I've done a lot of the editing, but I still have a bit more to do. And then when I did the IVF rounds, I felt like I couldn't write it as I went. The stakes were just too high at that point. Like I knew these are my last two shots.
Yeah.
And and then when the first one didn't work, which I just assumed it would, because it was like an A+ embryo, right? It was the highest score you could get on that genetic normalcy scores. I thought like, of course it will work, and it didn't. And so that was, so devastating. And I just couldn't write. It was just the stakes were way too emotionally high for me to be writing as I went. And then my mom was supposed to be with me that first week. Um, she was supposed to be there either to celebrate finding out I was finally pregnant or to take care of me if I wasn't. And she canceled her
Yeah.
trip, which was my first clue that something was wrong. And she explained it, but not in full. Anyway, it just was like too much to be writing as I went because the emotional gravity of it all. And I was like mentally regrouping to like figure out, is there some other way that I can make, great poignance in my life other than through motherhood? That's where I was like at mentally. I couldn't write it at that time. Written some in hindsight, and it needs a lot of polishing. But I do hope to finish it, because what I was going to say a second ago and then backtracked a little was I have tried to write it so that certainly if you're doing fertility treatments or if you're thinking of pursuing motherhood on your own, or just thinking about fertility treatments regardless of your marital situation or like, that it would be useful to you. But I've also tried to write it as the type of memoir that like would be relevant to somebody outside of those circumstances as well. It would be relevant to anybody considering taking just like an enormous personal risk, which I feel that it was, both because of the economics of single motherhood, especially on a nonprofit salary in the most expensive part of the country, and without the sort of backstop of like, parents to live with or to be the child care.
Right.
um because my dad is very progressive Parkinson's, and so my
Oh,
stepmom is very focused on him, and so it's not like they could be that either. And so anyway, I just view it as a grave personal risk to take, and I always felt that no matter how it worked out, like whether or not I succeeded, if I at least tried with everything in me to become a mom, if and anybody else and any other grave personal risk, like if you at least put your very all into it, then you can live a life without regret,
yes.
because at least you tried your damnedest. And if my body in the end was a thing that wasn't going to let me be a mom, so be it. But at
Hmm.
least I pushed it to like the furthest bounds of the possibilities. And I really was thinking that I was going to be moving forward as not a mom. And I had no regret, because I tried as hard as humanly possible to become
You did.
one.
Yeah.
And so I do hope to finish the book. I would love to like find a way to take a month off of work while he's in school and like just do that. And I would hope that it would be engaging. It's written in the present tense, so like you experience everything with me, in the moment. And so it's like a heightened experience, and it reads like fiction. It's not, it's not dry. And so I do hope that people would read it and be motivated to, for whatever kind of big change they're looking to make in their lives, like to know that like you actually do
Yeah.
have control, because it can feel like we're just on a path, like we've been set on a path, and that we can't really undo that at some point in our lives. And for whatever reason, I've always sort of been unlucky in love. Like it's just never,
Same.
people I fall for don't fall for me. The people that fall for me, I'm not that into. Just has been, I haven't had luck there.
Hmm.
And I could have just rode that out as like, that's my story, right? But I just felt like I have so much to offer a
You
child.
do.
And,
Yes.
so it's like worth fighting for whatever the thing is. And
Hmm.
knowing that like you can break out of the bounds of whatever your life has been. And it takes a hell of a lot of effort and focus. And, some of the time, for some people, this is really easy. I know a lot of people who've gotten pregnant the first try as a single mom, and have had employers pay for it and all this kind of jazz, and moms that do daycare. And I know a lot of people, for whom it's very easy. It doesn't have to be the challenge that it's been in my
Right.
case or your case. But I do want to finish the book and have it be out there as something that motivates others
Yeah.
to be bold.
I would
and
love to
uh
read it.
and I hope you will be on the list of first readers. It's so powerful to meet other single moms by choice.
Hmm.
Other single moms of all kinds, and single dads too. Like there's no reason to discriminate, but it's very special to know other families that are the same family structure. And then
Yeah.
it is very special when you find that little subset that share like this experience of really not having any practical help from family, even though, again, boatloads of love. I only know one other single mom in that circumstance. And so I appreciate knowing her, and she appreciates knowing me. And then there's just, for the support side, it's good to find people that have like something relatable that you can support each other through. And then I think
Yeah.
I've learned invaluable things. Like I didn't know the term single mom by choice until my son was about a year and a half. I was giving something away on Buy Nothing that was kid related, and the mom who came to get it told me she was 12 weeks pregnant, and she was really excited because she was single. And I said, "Oh, I'm single," and she was like, "Are you a single mom by choice?" And I said, "I don't know, what is that?" And she told me about this like movement, and then I joined the Facebook group, and here there are 600 women in the Bay Area in this Facebook group that are single moms by choice. And now I'm in a group that's like single moms by choice who had babies in 2020, right? Because we're this special subset of the world.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so it's been really neat. And then somebody in that group told me about the sibling registry, and I never would have known. I never would have thought about donor siblings as a thing. I didn't know about it. And 18 of them that we know of, and we've met four of them, and we do Zoom calls twice a year with most of them, and they all look related. It's pretty wild. And it's this incredibly special aspect for my son,
Yes.
who
Hmm.
will have the option as he grows up to really have relationships with probably at least some of them,
Yeah.
um, who are his half siblings after all. And
Yeah.
I would have never known about that. Like this huge gift to my son, I would never have been able to give, if some other single mom by choice hadn't told me about it, and I would never have had the chance to be told by her about it if this other one hadn't told me about the existence of this movement of single moms by choice. I don't like the term, it's not I say single by happenstance, mom by
Yep.
choice, but
I like that better. Yeah.
but single is temporal, it could change. But so it's good to build the network and the community
Yeah.
as much as possible.
For sure. I'm going to actually have to ask you for some more advice on the lack of the village and therefore raising our tiny little boys because I thought it would be a bigger village. And I talk about this in an upcoming episode is like, I thought I was going to have more people promised to be here for me after I had my son. And, looking back on the last 13 months, that village is very, very tiny. My mom is thankfully my biggest village right now, and she's not always in the best health. So, like, if something were to happen to her, I'm like, well, then what? It's hard not having a village. It teaches us, though, we are incredibly strong. I mean, you've been through so much. You're strong to begin with, but this also teaches us that having a lack there of a village makes us realize we were always capable of doing this. No matter what the circumstances were, we were always capable of being a single mom.
For sure. And I always sort of feel the need to say, I think parenting is hard, whatever way you come into it. And I'm not going to ever say that anything is harder than being a solo parent, but especially in the universe of like not having familial help, as so many single and married parents or coupled parents do have. But I have to say, I mean, I have numerous friends who have kids my son's age who have been divorced for a few years already. When their babies were 1 or 2, they got divorced. I think it's like I have total awe for parents who figure out how to keep romance alive
Yeah.
while nursing. Like I think the idea that they're shaving their legs all the time and like, I just and going out. Like I have been out to dinner. I have been out at night. My son has been babysat like maybe 4 times. I mean,
I
for
can
two
relate.
birthday dinners for me and a birthday dinner for a friend. And then the movies with my nieces, my brother stayed with him. But like I went to see Barbie with my nieces and my sister-in-law and my stepmom and Oppenheimer. But one we went during the daytime, as during his nap time. My brother stayed with him for both movies. I've only been out at night, like literally like 4 times in the last
Yeah.
5 years, and have hired a babysitter. Yeah, like some of those times was my brother. It blows my mind when I think about like it's been 5 whole years of like no breaks. But I will say on the community front, I mean, one is that I was 43 when I had him. I mean, all of my friends that had children, they were older, right? Already had witnessed their busy lives and all the scheduling on weekends and stuff. I think I had like reasonable expectations, and they've all been there as needed. Like I've not had a situation yet. I had one situation where like a particular friend surprised me and not showing up when I was puking my brains out, but another one did. It was like um went and got me the anti-nausea meds, but just generally, I actually recommend to people like only consider doing single parenting if you do have a pretty substantial community around you. It doesn't have to be family, but you have to have people you can ask for help, and you have to develop the ability to ask for help.
That's the
um
hard part.
yeah. And the other thing is that you'll experience this soon as your kiddo gets a little bigger and starts going to like a preschool, and even just in childcare before that. But really around 2 or 3, my son started to develop like very deep friendships. And we spend so much time with his friends' families that sometimes I feel bad. I'm spending so much more time with these new friends than with friends of 30 years who also live nearby. But they become a huge, like, I went on a date this year for the first time as a parent, and I didn't want to pay a babysitter for a first date. I just didn't want to pay my babysitter. His teacher charges a 4 hour minimum. I didn't want to have to spend $100 to meet the guy. Like, um, and I ended up asking our neighbors if Max could just come for a play date, and they were delighted. But I felt like after 3 years at this same, childcare slash preschool that he was at, honestly, there's a classroom full of parents who would have been like so delighted to aid and abet in my going on a date. And I felt like I could have asked like 6 or 8 of them, even though they're pretty new friends. I would have felt very comfortable to be like, hey guys, I want to go on this date. Who would like to hang out with Max? Like
Can you
have
watch my
Max hang
son?
out with your family for those 3 hours.
Right.
Because it was daytime, I did it during the daytime. And it was, I think everybody would have said yes. So I know people who tell me that like their best friends are parents of their children's friends from preschool or elementary school. I
Mhm.
have a tremendous group of best friends already. I've referred to them. It's like I have this cohort of like 6 or 7 women that are just like sisters. They're tremendous, that do all have families, and like all but one have, well, all have families and all but one have children, so they've got a lot of other things taking up their time, but they're very there for me emotionally and like and usefully at times as well, at all the important times. And they're there for my son. He feels very loved. But we also have this entirely new community, and you're just not there yet. Like your kiddo
I
isn't
will.
quite young, old
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
to where like the most important thing is that on the weekends he'd be with his friends. But
Yeah.
we're out hiking with them, we're out at the zoo, we went on a tarantula hike last week, like we're all doing all kinds of cool stuff
Yeah.
together. And so they're like a huge part of our lives. Your network will expand exponentially once your kiddo is a little bit bigger. And so
Thank
it's
you for
really
that.
like your first year or two that are more isolated. And then, and of course, like most of us are older. I'm like literally 10 to 20 years older than some of the other parents, but I could be 25 years older than another parent of a kid this age. I could be the parent of, I could be a grandparent. I have a cousin who's 6 months younger than me who's a grandparent. My cleaning lady is a grandmother and she's younger than me. It's like, I know a lot of people who are grandparents at this age. Anyway, that's just to say there's a lot of world that your child will bring into your life.
Thank you for
And
saying that.
because you will be sharing this in experience, especially with those that are first time parents, you will feel a closeness to them and develop bonds and support structures with them, that you don't have at this minute, but 2 years from now you will have. Yeah.
I agree with that. Weston has a girlfriend at daycare, but I met her parents in passing. It's really cute. Their little relationship, but they're in different rooms now, so I don't know if they're
No.
together anymore. But her parents are awesome. I need to be vulnerable enough to ask, like, if they want to, or any parent in the future would like to, spend some quality time together outside of that setting, the daycare setting. But you're right, through sports and other activities, that opens up such a wide range of parents to meet and expand this village, which is nice. And like I said, my friend has two littles that are, the youngest is 2 years older than Weston, and then my one friend's pregnant now, so Weston will be like 18 months older than this little guy. And so they have like a nice little group of friends, which is adorable. And we all try to get together as much as possible. I think a part of it too is me being okay enough with other people to watch my child, trusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm part of the
Yeah.
issue.
Well, and it's hard when they're little because of things like you need to know that that person is okay changing a diaper or like wiping their butt. Now, if they've been a parent, they're all going to be good with it. If they haven't been a parent, it's a question that you need to ask them. It gets so much easier by like 4 when they're potty trained. They can just take themselves to the bathroom. They can,
Yep.
my son potty trained really early. I was like not about to like let anybody babysit him other than one of his preschool teachers who already knows how to deal with all that.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot to ask of them, but it's so easy now. And I used to not be able to picture the idea of like inviting another kid over for a play date and letting their parent go away, like letting their parent have some downtime. But now that they're all potty trained, I'm good with it. There's one or two that are like difficult children that I probably wouldn't, but for the most part, like I think we're at that stage where we can start offering each other that, and that's how we can all get a little downtime, is like that your kid is with another parent who you think is a good parent, and who you trust and who they love, and they love your child. I just The other thing I'll say on this front, and I know we're probably way past our time, but that I think is really important is we're raising kids without dads and
Mhm.
or without a second parent. But in my case, if there were a second parent, it would be a dad. And for me, it's super important to spend a lot of time with other kids' families because I really want my son to have, all these male role models. And my
Mhm.
brother lives on another continent, and so he's pretty far away. So, that's a treat to be with his uncle. And so he's both my friends' husband, like my close friends, and their husbands are two of my close friends' husbands are like so amazing with my son and like really focus on him when he's at their house, because their kids are much bigger. So it's like, they're just or like one of them hiking always puts my son on his shoulders, just they always he has these bonds. And then a bunch of his friends' dads also, I'm blown away that these little kids aren't jealous of it, but like their dads can like interact. I feel like these dads give him some extra love and attention, and
That's
he
adorable.
totally loves the dads.
Yeah.
And so I feel like very lucky that he has all of these amazing male role models around him,
Yes.
and people that if we reach a point at some point where I'm not who he wants to talk to about certain things, like there are a
He has
whole
other
bunch of
people.
he has all these guys that he can go to for that I trust with him in that way,
Right.
and that I know he already trusts and loves, and then I see that they love him. So I think it's actually like really important to spend time with other families, both to find other families of the same structure as yours, so your kid knows they're not, there are lots of mommy and kid families out there, not just one.
Right.
But then to have that opportunity to interact with dads or two moms or two, whatever it may be, just to like,
Whatever it looks
um,
like. Yeah.
yeah, just more adults for them to know they can
Yeah.
go to for everything.
I love that advice. Thank you for that, Laura. Also,
Yeah, of
thank you for spending time with me this afternoon. It has been such a delight to get to know you.
course.
I can't wait to read your book.
I really, you're making me want to finish it just for you because I
There you
just
go.
want to commend you for doing this. I'm totally
Thank
blown away that
you.
you're doing this at this stage in your child's life. Like, oh my God, I
Thank
did
you.
not have. I feel like even now I'm like very long-winded and lose my train of thought. Like, the fact that you are clear-headed enough to do this at this stage is so cool because you're really doing it in the moment, and it's really part of your journey, and
Yeah.
it will be a gift to so many people. I'm having fun, like been listening to the episodes. I still have more to go, but like
Thank
it
you.
is this is why I wanted to write it, was to help other women, right? And
Yeah.
you're just like on it. So thank you for doing it.
Well, come back anytime that you would like. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, I am more than happy to have you on as a co host.
Oh, that would be super fun. Would love it. All right. You're amazing.
Have
I'm so
a
happy to know you. I want to give you a great big hug.
thank you. Yes. There we go. Hug you through the screen.
All
Nice to
right.
meet
Take
you,
good care.
Laura. Have a
You
wonderful
too.
afternoon, and we will chat soon.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye. As we close on Laura's episode, we're reminded that some journeys ask more of us than we can have ever expected, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Laura's path to motherhood was never linear. It was marked by uncertainty, persistence, and a kind of courage that only reveals itself when life becomes overwhelmingly hard. She navigated PCOS, repeated treatments, and the heartbreak of setbacks. She stepped into early pregnancy at a moment when the world was holding its breath, when fear and isolation touched every corner of our lives. And still, through all of it, Laura kept pushing forward. Her story is a testament to resilience, to hope that flickers even in the darkness, to the quiet strength women carry as they build families in the ways that they can, in the moments that they have, under circumstances that no one could have ever predicted. Laura shows us that motherhood isn't always born from perfect timing. Sometimes it arrives in the middle of chaos, grief, or uncertainty. And sometimes that's exactly what makes it extraordinary. To anyone listening who is facing their own uphill climb, whether it's fertility, loss, loneliness, or simply the unknowns, you are never alone. Stories like Laura's reminds us that the human spirit can endure more than we think, and that even in the hardest seasons, life continues to rise. If you want to follow along with more stories like Laura's, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Patreon. We would truly love to hear more from you, your journey to and through motherhood as a single mom by choice. Your stories are what keep this community strong, connected, and seen. Thank you for joining us for this conversation, and thank you, Lara, for sharing your journey with such honesty and heart. Until next time.